Everywhere people go, they want refreshment. At home, on the road, at the ball game, or wherever. Not only at play, but also at work, on the job. So often, that's where you want refreshment most, and enjoy it most. Especially quality refreshment. Refreshment you can trust, like you trust the product you make on your job. A quality product made with the best of materials, with experience and care. Here's refreshment you can enjoy quickly and conveniently, and a place to put the bottle when you're through. Yes, sir, refreshment is on the job, side by side with the people on the production line. In plants large and small, in factories and mills, in warehouses, drafting rooms and offices, a bottle of ice-cold Coca-Cola when you're thirsty or a little tired. You know how it is. You just seem to get along better with your work when you're fresh and refreshed through the day. And now, on every kind of job, Coca-Cola is being made available for your enjoyment. A lot of thought went into placing the vending machines in the right spots. Spots as close as possible to you, so you won't have to walk clear across the plant for a little quick refreshment. Top management was in on it. And the foreman, too. No one knows his shop and what is required to run it right better than the foreman. So when that big red cooler shows up on your... You know it isn't being put in that particular spot just by chance. It's the handiest spot, the closest and most convenient. These big coolers will hold plenty of Coke, too. They are designed and built especially for mills, plants, offices, places like the one you work in, where there are lots of people. They're automatic, of course, and easy to operate. Just drop in a coin, and out comes a bottle of Coke. Keeping the coin cooler filled is the job of the route salesman. He makes it his business to see to it that there is always enough on hand in every cooler to meet the demand. And he likes to get first-hand information on whether or not everyone is getting refreshment just right, ice cold. And this fella is plenty particular on that subject. He'll settle for nothing less than the, well, call it the ice-cold zone, which for the record is between 33 and 38 degrees. Every step he follows in loading and servicing the coolers is made with one aim, and that is to make sure you get ice-cold refreshment when you want it, the way you want it. He carries a pocket full of nickels, so he can make change for anyone who needs it. And you'll notice he won't leave until that cooler of yours is clean, inside and out. It's part of the job of good housekeeping. He knows the importance of orderliness around a place like yours. For one thing, he knows, the same as you do, that cleaning up, putting things away, keeping things where they belong, makes safety sense, as well as a more pleasant place to work. So, let's put them back in the rack, Mac. Please, that is. The convenience and pleasure of having ice-cold refreshment at work is for all the folks on the job. Thank you. And it's part of everybody's job to protect that convenience for themselves and all the others who enjoy it by putting the bottles back in the rack. Do your part. Put empties in the rack. Safety first. It's just a reminder, in case anyone should forget that empties belong in the racks. And the racks themselves, they're always located at the coolers and elsewhere in handy places. By keeping things straight, we'll keep refreshment on the job. It's keeping everything in its place that counts for a safer place to work. And everyone in the plant realizes the safety value of alertness on the job. For the men who work with molten metal, for the men in the foundries and mills, here's real refreshment for people whose jobs require alertness. And what job doesn't? The men of the machine shop, too, where precision is needed to the thousandth of an inch. Enjoy refreshment on the job. It's a relaxing experience. So, whether your job is at the controls, in the office, or on the production line, in the yards or in the warehouse, no matter what the job, everybody, in every circumstance, everywhere, enjoys refreshment on the job, just as you do, because you're more alert, because you think and act and work with an eye to safety and precision when you're refreshed through the day. It's the route salesman's job to see you are always supplied with ice-cold Coke. He will do his part, but he'll need help from you to keep refreshment on the job.
That's negative.
William Moore. Who's asking?
Police.
Name taken. You're Moore, all right. You're an easy make from your picture. Lean on the car.
What's the beef?
Burglary. Westover Market last July. Turn around.
I suppose you got a warrant?
That's right.
Too bad, cop!
I got other plans.
That's how Detective Akins became a statistic. One of a dangerously growing number of police officers were killed or injured while making an arrest. Akins was lucky. He ended up in the injured column. But that was because a doctor knew more about surgery than Akins knew about making an arrest. Or maybe he did know better. But he made one common and often deadly mistake. To him, arrests had become routine. He grew careless. Careless in trying to make a planned arrest single-handed just because his partner called in sick. Careless in search technique. Careless in using handcuffs. Careless because he forgot that making an arrest is the most dangerous job in law enforcement. Now let's take a look at a similar situation.
Quiet night.
No news is good news.
You big phony, all you live for is a good pinch.
Anything not to have to listen to you all night, Bowman. Hey, cut back into that burger joint. There was a gray convertible. Could be the one they think that salesman Eisner stole over on 34th Street a couple of hours ago.
Any dope on him?
Yeah, slow down a minute. Burglary warrant out of criminal court, good mug shot, 4-inch cut scar right-sided face. Easy make.
Any gun?
Didn't say.
Okay.
Car 21, going 10-6. Investigating suspicious vehicle. Eisner?
What? Hey, I can't see.
Police officer Sheen and Bowman, you're under arrest, Eisner. There's a warrant out charging you with first-degree burglary. Put up your hands. Turn around slowly. Take 2 steps backward. Now lean against the car and spread your legs. Way out and way back.
Professionals. One man in charge and doing all the talking. Clear, forceful, all business. The subject knows he's under arrest and why. There's no doubt in his mind about what he's expected to do, or what will happen to him if he doesn't. He's searched thoroughly and methodically. The search, though complete, is a preliminary one, and no substitute for a later strip search. The restraining officer should stay as far apart from and behind the subject as possible. Always check the cuffs for proper fit, and use the double lock to prevent any accidental or self-induced over-tightness. When a subject is apprehended in possession of an automobile, be sure to search the car incidental to his arrest. Make certain that the subject's car is completely secured following the search. This could be a vital point in a later court proceeding. Always place the subject in a vehicle as far from the driver as possible. In other words, never give a criminal an opening. He may use it. How did the patrolmen make out? Very well. Because they took nothing for granted. Never got careless. They knew that uniforms and jurisdictions change, but hoodlums don't. But what of the non-professional criminal? Far removed from the hoodlum mentality. The subject for whom the arrest warrant is the first black mark on a lifelong record of respectability. What can be expected of him?
Alfred.
Alfred, look. Tuna fish. I negotiated another little loan at the company today, Alfred. Of course, most of the proceeds went into our retirement fund. But I held out enough for a little celebration. The auditors left today, and not one word about our fund. We're safe for another year, Alfred. And after that, we shall have reached our goal. Yes, just a minute. I'm coming. Yes?
Henry Meade?
Yes?
We're police officers. I'm Detective Sergeant Case. This is Detective Hester. May we come in?
Of course. I don't understand.
I'm sorry, Mr. Meade, but we have a warrant for your arrest, charging you with grand larceny from the Municipal Finance Company. You'll have to come with us.
But the auditors, they said nothing. They couldn't have...
Mr. Meade, anything you say from now on can be used against you in court.
I know. I know. It's all right.
Mr. Meade?
Yes?
The can opener.
Oh, of course.
Would you raise your arms a second, Mr. Meade?
Huh? But what about Alfred?
Alfred?
Alfred and I are very old friends.
Well, we'll see that the landlord looks after your cat.
May I say goodbye to him?
Sure, Mr. Meade.
How inexcusable of me, Alfred. I'd forgotten your catnip. I'm sorry, Alfred.
Attempts to kill arresting officers or to commit suicide, both in this instance successful, are among the many possible reactions to be expected of any subject, no matter what his background or appearance. Other reactions include flight and peaceful submission with rescue by a Confederate. There are as many more as the imagination of desperate men can devise. It is your duty to be ready for any of them. Detectives Case and Hester were not. As a result, they died. And so did the subject, for whose safety they were responsible from the moment he was placed under arrest. Big city detective or small town officer, under the law, every arresting officer has this same responsibility. He should not allow his personal feelings for the subject, his respect for community status, past friendships, or misplaced sentiment to interfere with what he knows to be proper arrest techniques to protect himself and the subject.
But let me have that warrant, Bob. Arnell tells me you've been out to Thompson Place before. When I was a kid, Chief, my daddy used to work for Thompson Furniture. You know, the big party for all the company kids, 4th of July? Most every kid in town was there. Half their folks worked for Thompson, the rest snuck in. Thompson didn't care. He was like that. Town's been good to Thompson. He's been good to the town.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, miss. I'm Chief Hancock. We'd like to see Mr. Thompson.
Oh, yes, sir. Mr. Thompson is working in a shop. If you gentlemen will step inside, I'll tell Mr. Thompson you're here.
I'm afraid that won't do, miss. I'll have to ask you to take us along with you.
Very well, gentlemen. If you'll follow me, please.
Yeah, come in. Oh, hello, Chief.
Excuse the intrusion, Mr. Thompson. How are you?
Fine.
You know Officer Manning?
Are you, Manning? Well, what's the matter, Chief? My check for bail in traffic court the other night bounced?
I'm afraid it isn't reckless driving anymore, Mr. Thompson. The little girl died. Her folks have sworn out a complaint charging you with manslaughter. I have a warrant here from Judge Simon. I have to place you under arrest, Mr. Thompson. You extend your arms to the side, please. Now, you don't have to tell me anything about it, Mr. Thompson, but anything you do say... You okay, Thompson?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. You boys mind if I put my coat back on?
Heck no. Bob, get the man's coat for him.
Look out, Manning! Look out!
The shock of arrest makes any subject's reaction unpredictable and potentially dangerous. The granting of personal favors immediately following an arrest should therefore be given very careful consideration. Deny or closely supervise any requests for water, use of the bathroom, articles of clothing, and the like. Thompson's attempt at self-destruction was thwarted by the arresting officers. The difference: training, planning, alertness. The triple play that gives the best assurance of a successful arrest. The Romans had a saying, si vis pacem, para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war.
Eyeball 1 to dugout.
This is dugout.
This is eyeball 1.
The view is fine and the kids are still in school. Over.
10-3, eyeball 1. Stay with it. Some people who've seen the kids recently are sure we have the right ones. Eyeball 2.
10-3, dugout. I read you loud and clear. Got a good view of the schoolyard here. If anybody tries to play hooky, we're in good position. Over.
10-3.
Police headquarters.
Captain Kramer, put me through to the chief, please.
Yes?
Captain Kramer, sir.
Put him on.
It's Schultz and Larson, all right, boss. We have positive idents from the room clerk, parking lot attendant, and a bellboy they sent out for beer and sandwiches. I've got a command post set up here in the manager's inner office. He's very cooperative. The stakeouts are in position. A recon crew is out in the panel truck making a cover and escape route survey with a 60-second camera. They should be coming in any minute.
What are you doing about clearing the surrounding rooms?
The manager's calling all the people into his office on a pretext. When they get there, Lieutenant Tully explains. They're putting them in the dining room with food and television. That's it, sir.
Okay, Pete. Come on in with the panel truck. We'll be waiting for you in squad room 1. Farrington.
Yes, sir.
Kramer's lined up a hot one. Meet me in squad room 1 in 15 minutes. And bring your heavy squad. Now, are there any questions concerning the raid area? Any questions at all about any phase of this operation? All right, now I want each of you to come up to the board and show me just what you'll do from start to finish. We'll start with you, Captain Kramer.
Preparation. The factor that separates the men from the boys. The heavies from the lightweights. Those who will live from those who will die. Keep your raid plan simple. Use your knowledge of the subjects and the results of a careful, detailed reconnaissance. Use maps, photographs, and diagrams showing possible escape routes, cover, and weapons needed. Then, when you're sure every man knows his assignment, you're ready.
Just Unit 5 and the Chief, Captain. All the rest are in position, have acknowledged.
Dug out to shortstop. 10-3, shortstop. Check off Unit 5. That leaves just the Chief, right?
Right.
Dug out to pitcher. This is dugout. Pitcher, you may take the mound. Eyeball 1. All units, this is dugout. Play ball. Play ball.
Did you tell some lousy two-bit beware?
Yeah. This is the police. You are completely surrounded and isolated. You have exactly 1 minute to come out backwards with your hands over your heads. This is the first and last call. The next message will be a gas shell.
Now, what is it? What is it?
It's the end of the line for now, Schultz.
What?
The cops, stupid. The stinking lousy cops. They're all over us. It's finished. Get those hands up higher. Right now, move over to your left. Farther over. Right, hold it there. Now, just spread your feet apart. Now, slowly, lean into the wall with your hands. Hold it. Search party.
Local, county, state, or federal, professional officers know the fundamentals of a successful arrest by heart. Simplicity of plan, speed of execution, surprise, superiority of manpower and firepower, and the safety of all individuals concerned. There can be no such thing as a routine arrest. For these men know that the greatest danger is carelessness. Stay alert and stay alive.
And don't forget, folks, when you goes to the polls today, a vote for Popeye means free ice cream for all the kiddies.
All right, men, step
right over here and get your free cigars.
And what we need is bigger elephants in all our zoos. Oh, my gosh.
Now, just remember your old pal Bluto at the polls today, fellers. And there's an extra cigar for each and every vote you give me. Yes, sir.
And furthermore, I promises 2 cans of spinach for every pot. Here's me past record, folks, which speaks for itself.
You double-crosser. Steal my voters, will you?
For me?
Well, the field still needs plowing.
Okay, Olive. All done. Now to the polls.
Oh, I almost forgot. That hay must be put in the hayloft.
Shall we goes to the polls?
Popeye, I'm casting my vote for you.
Let's go, Toots. You're voting for me.
You, I'm not voting for.
Oh, yes, you are.
From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
This is the story of centralized traffic control, an amazing electrical development in modern railroading. Here we have a passenger train speeding westward toward the Pacific coast. And here's an eastbound freight headed for Chicago on the same track. Miles away, the dispatcher can tell at a glance just what is happening. The high-precision equipment in front of him advises him of the exact location of every train in his division, and he may be controlling operation for as much as 250 miles. His job right now is to get those two trains past each other by using a siding. He sets switches and pushes buttons. And miles away, a switch opens. A signal light changes. The eastbound freight pulling 100 or more cars at high speed. The watchful engineer spots the warning signal. Speed is reduced. And as he passes the signal, his new position is recorded in the dispatcher's office. The freight takes the siding and moves along at reduced speed. The signals are ready to be reset. Now that the freight is clear of the main line. With a twist of a lever, the dispatcher notifies the speeding passenger train that the track is clear. And here it comes at 80 miles an hour. Thanks to the magic of centralized traffic control, the trains pass. The freight is still moving at slow speed. It has not become necessary for it to come to a complete halt. There goes the westbound. The pass has safely been completed. Now let's take care of the freight. He gets the signal. It's resumed speed. And there goes the freight, back on the main line, eastbound to Chicago. That's centralized traffic control. One man controls traffic on a whole division of a railroad. When you bought your car with its powerful engine, luxurious interior, and beautiful body job, you probably had things like this in mind. The ability to go places and see things, to get around without restriction, to enjoy our beautiful country. But if you drive in our congested cities, you're apt to find yourself in a situation like this. You know, some 50 years ago, an automobile was developed which would go 10 miles an hour. And today, half a century later, that's what some of us are doing, 10 miles an hour. And the parking situation, do I need to tell you? You bought your car for convenience, safety, and pleasure. And this is what you're getting. And this is where you're apt to end up. Why? Maybe we've been approaching the problem from the wrong angle. We've been thinking in terms of moving traffic, when we should think in terms of moving people. For example, look at all the cars in this typical downtown block, many of them carrying only one or two persons. All the people in all these cars jamming traffic would fit in just one bus, taking only a fraction of the space. And with all those cars gone, that bus would really get people there in jig time. In a typical city block, one trolley coach affords enough transport to remove the need for as many as 50 parking spaces. And a modern streetcar with its large capacity handles enough traffic each day to remove hundreds of cars from congested downtown areas. A modern high-speed transportation system carries as much traffic as 100 lanes of automobiles. And short surface trains, often operating along freeways, offer speedy, convenient transportation. Yes, before you start telling how buses and trolleys tied you up driving home, just think of the number of passengers these important transportation systems carry, and think what a complete mess traffic can be when they're not running. They've gone modern in a big way. Two-way radio cars advise dispatchers, enable extra facilities to be put on the streets to solve key traffic situations. And look at this as an example of how modern a transit vehicle system can be. Your automobile is an important part of your life, as it should be and will continue to be. And if you believe the problem of congestion can be helped by moving people instead of moving traffic, you'll realize the importance of trolleys and trolley coaches. We Americans are regarded as busy, progressive people. And maybe one of the reasons we get as much done as we do is because we know how to relax, how to take time off from daily problems and just plain have fun. For instance, each year, many of us in all sections of the country find sport and relaxation in just fishing. It's hard to describe the thrill of working that reel, knowing you've got a fighting beauty on the other end of the line, and that if you handle your rod right, you've got yourself another fish. Yep, it's hard to describe the thrill, but it's there. Just look at the size of that baby. They always taste better this way, cooked out in the open. There's a real man's meal. Sometimes the neighbors are shy, and sometimes they're as bold as brass. Fishing places run all the way from wilderness to spots where you have to drop your hook after the neighborhood kids go home. Some people fish in lakes. In fact, a lot of folks say it's the only kind. One thing about it, you can get to your favorite fishing spot in a hurry. And some people fix it so they can fish almost off the front porch. Fishing in the ocean is still another kind of fishing. And probably one of the greatest friendly arguments of all times goes on between freshwater fishermen and those who go in for the big ones from the briny deep. But the idea is the same: relaxation away from the cares of the world, pleasant companionship, and the thrill of catching that big one. It's a great sport, no matter where you go. You can have the time of your life just fishing. Here are a few famous Americans for you to identify, each of whom has been engaged in projects which have changed our lives. The first one is easy. It's President Theodore Roosevelt, of course. Now, who is the man on the left? This one may be a little harder. Here's a clue. He was the man responsible for one of the biggest construction jobs of all time. By the way, if these pictures look a little old and jumpy, they should. They were filmed clear back in 1914 at the actual opening of this great achievement, the Panama Canal. And the man we wanted you to identify was the chief engineer for this project. The man on the left, Colonel George W. Goethals. Who is the man seated at the desk? He's one of America's greatest inventors of all time. And this is regarded as probably the greatest of his many contributions to our way of living. Let's take a closer look. Recognize him? It's Thomas Alva Edison. Here is Mr. Edison with another electrical wizard, the man we'd like you to identify. The man with Edison was a mathematical genius. He obtained patents for over 200 improvements in the field of electricity. He was known as the father of alternating current. He is Charles P. Steinmetz. Now, who is this man? He was a general in spite of that collegiate coonskin coat. He was one of our country's earliest believers in air power, and caused a considerable furor when he demonstrated a thing like this could happen. Remember him now, General Billy Mitchell. Remember the planes of World War I? And these early crates, we've come a long way since then. And in the last few years, too. Here are actual films of the first jet flight in America, October 1st, 1942. People have been experimenting with jet propulsion for a long time, and not always for planes. The principle of jet propulsion is found in Newton's third law of motion, which states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For example, an ordinary rotary lawn sprinkler turns because of the reaction of the arms and the action of the jet of water. It does not turn because the water squirted out pushes against the air. It would spin just as well in a vacuum. Similarly, a jet plane flies because of the reaction to the jet, not because the jet pushes against the air behind it. The engine itself, with modern developments, consists of two rotating elements: the compressor and the turbine, which are both mounted on a single rotating shaft. Air is drawn in, compressed, and packed into the firing chambers where the fuel is injected. The constantly burning fuel tremendously increases the energy of the enclosed gases, which rush through the turbine and out. The turbine, operating like a windmill, supplies the power to spin the compressor. The expanding gases, pushing their way out the rear at about 1,200 miles per hour, give the plane its forward thrust. This is the heart of the jet engine, the turbine wheel, the most tortured piece of metal in the world. It must not twist in the superheated gases. It must not corrode. It must not tear itself apart at 8,000 revolutions a minute. The turbine wheel, running red hot, is just a few feet away from the compressor, sucking in air that may be 65 degrees below zero. This turbine wheel is an outstanding example of design and craftsmanship. Jet propulsion changed the whole outlook of the aviation industry. Of course, many developments have been made in jet engines. Each new model is more powerful and more efficient than the last one. In one 6-month period, 3 designs were okayed, each more powerful than the preceding one. The last of these is no larger than the first, yet delivers so much more thrust that it is not even in the same class. America's scientists and engineers and metallurgists went to work, and thanks to them, our country is rapidly achieving a degree of jet supremacy which may well play an important part in our lives in the future.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.
Welcome to the John Hines National Wildlife Refuge at Tinicum. Over the centuries, the beautiful scenery around you has been claimed by many nations, each leaving its imprint on the land. But today, thanks to the efforts and dedication of people just like you, these wetlands, fields, and woodlands have been returned to the plants and animals who lived here long before the first colonists set foot in the New World. This is the story of Tinicum Marsh, an urban miracle. Exploring the marsh by canoe is a journey through space and time. Imagine the view from the canoe of a Lenape Indian 500 years or more ago. Back then, the marshes covered nearly 6,000 acres, teeming with wildlife. The air was filled with the songs of the birds, vied to take over the New World. In 1655,